So let's get to Therapeutic Thursday. Let's have some therapy about all this. All right. Because medical trauma is the topic. And we know that a lot of people in the community may still be experiencing fear or scanxiety, which was what I was going to ask Bo. Like, do you have follow-up anxiety when you see your physicians? But overwhelming sensations that can trigger certain, that are triggered by certain medical procedures or tests. And let me tell you, being in the ER and having an IV is where it begins for me. And I tell everybody, I can have chest tubes ripped out of my chest, but I cannot have an IV put in. Just let me talk. I'm going to talk a lot. Just ignore me. Just tell me that you like the vein. If you tell me you like the vein, I take a deep breath. So she said, I like the vein. And she did a great job, but that's the first. CT or any kind of dye, I just need somebody to say, okay, Karen, we're going to give it to you in 3, 2, 1. And then I can start breathing and grounding and counting and tapping. And I know what to expect and try to minimize the impacts of feeling discomfort. That's what blows me up. But I will tell you, coming out of this experience led me to fully realize and be able to accept that I need a tune-up in my EMDR. I am becoming more and more easily triggered from a PTS standpoint by medical stuff. So it's time for a tune-up. So I will let you all know how that works because I am going later this week. So I'm excited. All right. Medical trauma is a term that basically refers to the psychological emotional impact of experiencing or witnessing a serious injury or illness. Okay, so it doesn't have to be that it happened to you. Our caregivers could have a degree of medical trauma because of what happened to us. Okay, it just happens. Obviously, this also includes death, but medical trauma can affect anyone, regardless of your age, your gender, your background, and common signs of medical trauma could be you start having flashbacks, you start having nightmares, maybe you're having intrusive memories of the actual event. That's one. Some other signs of medical trauma would be avoidance of reminders of the event. So you're just disassociating. You don't want to be reminded of whatever has happened, whether that's people, places, or the activities surrounding the event. If you start feeling emotionally numb or detached, like I just said, detachment, or disconnected from other people. If you're feeling anxious, fearful, angry, guilty, or ashamed, those are all traditionally the emotions you might feel. If you start having trouble sleeping or concentrating or remembering things, it's typically on a short-term memory basis. And if you're having changes in your appetite or your food or your energy level, these could all be signs of a medical trauma. And if you or someone you know is suffering from medical trauma, it's really important to seek professional help because you really don't need to suffer. Kind of like if you are having problems with your hand or your foot or your hip, you don't need to suffer. You need to see a doctor. It works the same way for anything that is emotional or mentally based. Okay. And there's very effective treatments that are out there, such as cognitive behavior therapy or CBT. That's typically more of your talk therapy that you think of when you think of going to therapy. Eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, which we talk about a lot, or EMDR. That's what I'm going back in to ultimately have as my tune-up. I'm going to start off with the talky stuff. We're going to talk so that Amy Wagner, the therapist who's been on here before, so she has an idea on what's bringing me there and what's been happening, and then we'll move into that EMDR. And lastly, you might need some medication, and all of these are perfectly fine and typically covered by insurance. Having any of these treatments can actually help you cope with the impact and the distressing emotions that really come with medical trauma. It can help to reduce the thoughts and the negative impact of the trauma on your life. So you don't have to suffer alone. And suffering is no good. It only takes me a couple times of these bad experiences before I have now said to myself, I am not going to suffer any longer. I know that there's treatment out there that's going to make this a little bit easier because I've got a lifetime to go through this. So my wish for any of you that might be suffering through some of this is that you will consider talking to your physician and being referred to the best therapist that can help you. Okay, that's our Therapeutic Thursday.